Welcome to week 2, bonus 1 on layer masks. Hey, layer masks, I think, are one of the top 10 features of all of Photoshop. So these are masks worth learning. I want to say something else. Like any good chef, you don't just use one ingredient in a great recipe. I love chocolate. I love garlic. I love salt, but a bowl of salt would kill me, right? But all those things together make a delicious meal. The same is true with masks and all the other features in Photoshop. Now, this isn't a Photoshop training course per se, it's masks. But if I use layer mask, you'll find it's very difficult for me to use layer masks without also using something called glitter and glue. Now, that's what I call it. Adobe calls it clipping mask. So I'm letting you know that when you use layer masks and clipping masks and a non-mask feature called blending modes, those are delicious ingredients all combined together. I'm going to show you layer masks. In the next bonus video, I'm going to show you how to use glitter and glue or clipping masks. And if you want to really unpack all of blending modes, that is really done in my Photoshop course, okay? The real Photoshop course on BPSOP. But I'm going to touch it because I'm going to add that ingredient as we work with layer masks and glitter and glue. But first, layer masks. Let's talk about what they are and how I would use them. And then I'm also going to show you a couple of little efficiency tips along the way, as usual. I'm in Bridge. It's very difficult to work in just one Adobe app. They're not built to be run alone. They're built to be a community of projects. And we're better together now, aren't we? So I'm in Bridge just to examine a folder full of images. And if you want to examine a folder full of images, all you have to do is sneak out to your desktop, for example, and click and drag a folder onto Bridge, and it will let you see what's in that folder. That's just all I did. I'm looking. What's in there? What can I see that's in that folder? Okay, now I'm going to go back where I came from. But all I'm saying is I'm examining a lot of images all at once. Now, you Lightroom users already know how valuable this is compared to opening images one at a time in Photoshop. But Bridge does the same thing. The difference between Lightroom and Bridge is that in Lightroom, you have to import all those photos before you can start taking a peek. In Bridge, you don't. You just say, I want to see inside. There's no import, there's no unimport, there's no delete from the catalog. It's quick and it's easy. And I know this is going to sound a little sing-song sales, but I'm not trying to sell you. I'm just letting you know I also have a Bridge course if you're interested in that. But here I am in Bridge, and I'm going to go tap and hold my Shift key and tap. Now, I could hold the Shift key and tap two images because they're right next to each other. But if I wanted to select images that weren't right next to each other, I wouldn't hold the Shift key on Mac or PC. I'd hold the Control key on the PC or the Command key on the Mac when I click, and it lets me select images. See, notice the blue outline that aren't next to each other. Command or Control click allows me to select images that aren't right next to each other. Okay, little trick. But since I have two images right next to each other, I can get away with Shift. There, two images are selected. Why are you in Bridge? I'm going to tell you a little efficiency trick. Here it comes. Under the Tools menu in Bridge, it says, oh honey, Bridge and Photoshop are married. Honeydew list is right here, Photoshop. Oh honey, yes dear, would you please, when you get a chance, load those two files, read this carefully, load those two files into Photoshop, one document, as two layers. Boy, did I add a lot of words. Hey, will you load the selected files into one Photoshop document as multiple layers? It's just an efficiency trick. I do it. If Photoshop is open, all is well. If Photoshop is not open, it launches. But lo and behold, look at that. Photoshop, now inside of one document, has two layers, two images loaded. It's an efficiency trick. Hey, I'm going to hit the letter F to fill my screen so I don't have to look at all that garbage behind me. And this is what's going to happen to you when you try to combine two images or more, but start with only two. One will be big, one will be small. You have a couple of choices. You can scale one of the two images, word to the wise. You can get away with scaling smaller, but it's going to hurt your resolution if you scale the small one larger. You hear that? You can scale smaller without any great loss, but you can't scale larger without great visible loss. Another thing I might need to do, choice-wise, is to swap the two layers. Photoshop didn't know which one I wanted on top, so I'm going to grab the one on the bottom and push it in the layers panel to the top. It explains why I can't see the one below, but they're both opaque. I could scale, and I'm going to do that now. In Photoshop, Command T. They call that transform. On the PC, it's Control T, transform. And I'm going to, no keys held down, just start dragging. And Adobe recently, a couple of years ago, changed the default behavior when you scale, when you transform. Without having to hold a key, it automatically keeps the original proportion. Now, it used to be you had to hold the Shift key to keep the proportion. But now, you have to hold the Shift key if you don't want to keep the proportion. I'm just letting you know that if you're an old-time Photoshop user. I'm not holding the key. My default behavior now is this. So I'm just putting two photos together, okay? And I'm going to click and drag about where I want that to be. About. I'm going to make a change here in a moment. The selection is still on the screen. When I'm sure that's what I want, I'm going to hit Enter or Return on my keyboard. All right. Two choices when you combine images. One is scale. The other is crop. Keep those two things in mind. When you combine two images, one was probably much larger than the other. You might need to scale, transform. You might need to transform. Now in this case, I'm going to use a shortcut you already know. Remember, that bottom layer is really going all the way across, and I'm going to select it magically. Remember, I could hold the Command key and click the thumbnail or the text. I'm clicking on the thumbnail here. Command click anything to make a selection out of anything. I'm command clicking the thumbnail. I know it's right because I'm seeing over there, I'm seeing the little marquee icon show up by my cursor. I'm going to make a selection out of the picnic image. Command click. Now, you PC users were paying attention, and you heard me say command, command, command a lot. But I've already taught you that whenever you hear me say command, if you're a PC user, it's the control key for you. So control click. Here we go. And it made a selection out of the picnic image. Awesome. Let's look up. And I said the picnic image. I'm going to go to the image menu, and you'll notice there's a quick crop to whatever is selected. So while the image with the sunglasses was quite large, I got it about where I wanted it, But now I want to cut part of it off. I don't need that bottom section. I'm going to crop my composition, my combination of two images. I'm going to crop them right now. There. Now I'm going to do Command or Control plus Command on the Mac, Control on the PC, plus just to get my image a little bigger. If I hold the space bar, I won't paint with my currently selected paintbrush. The space bar, when I click and drag, just says move it. I want to see it over here. Command plus, it's bigger. Oh, shoosh. Space bar, I can move it. What has this got to do with layer masks? A layer mask is an eraser. It's temporary. I showed you an example of that earlier. It's just an eraser. So I'm on the top photo, and I currently have a selection around the whole screen, and I'm going to deselect my current selection. I don't want a mask yet around that whole shape. Deselect. Nothing selected. My top layer, however, is highlighted. They call that targeted. It's targeted. They're trying to keep me from confusing myself with the word selection. I might say, which layer is selected? Well, which layer is targeted? And what on that layer is selected? It's subtle, but meaningful. Top layer is targeted. And I want to erase part of it. Now you'll notice I have nothing selected. I have no mask, no selection. Watch carefully now when I sneak down to the bottom and I add a layer mask. It automatically generates a mask for just that layer, and it fills the mask with white opaque paint. Okay, white opaque paint is the default fill when you just create a new mask. But there are two other things that could happen to you. So I want to illuminate that for you, okay? When you see white on a layer mask, it's saying the lights are on. You can see when the lights are on. That's what it means. Now I'm going to sneak over and grab my paintbrush. I've got my paintbrush, and if you look down, you'll notice that I have both black and white to choose from. Now you may find when you look down that you have blue and green or something like that. But whatever, there's a keyboard shortcut to reset this to blackness and whiteness. And for Mac users and PC users, it's the same. It's just the letter D. D resets the default paint chips, default, to white and black. So if you want a quick way to do that, D. But Rick, where do I find that elsewhere? It's right here. It's this little button with white on top of black. That is actually a button you could click. But look, it tells me default foreground and background colors, or hit D. Cool. Well, what's this little broken arrows doing over? Well, that's X. And it just switches. It's a light switch. Now remember, you can see when the lights are on, but you can't see when the lights are out. And so it's very important when you're working with a layer mask to have a quick access to the light switch for turn the lights out. I can't see. Turn the lights on. I want to see. I'm going to show it to you. There's the keyboard shortcut. There's the button, but the keyboard shortcut was X. And if I hit X, X changes, switches, X, X, X. It just X changes the two colors. Lights on, lights off, lights on, lights off. I call it the light switch. Okay. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. I have the top layer targeted. I have a layer mask sitting there. It's filled with lights on. I've grabbed my paintbrush. I'm going to paint with black. I'm going to paint with I can't see. I'm going to paint with lights out. Where? Right here in this top left corner. Lights out. So you see what happened. I can't see that part of the top layer. Well, that gives me an idea. What if I get rid of this entire harsh line over here, that edge of that photo? I don't want to see it. Lights out. Paint with black. This is incredible, really. Well, oh sheesh, what have I done? I've accidentally clicked my mouse when I sneezed and I lost her face. Lights out on her face. And if I look over at the layer mask, you can see that subtle, isn't it? That black part I painted on the edge so I didn't have to see it. And now you see that little oval representing the area of her face. That is lights out. Oh, what am I going to do? No problem, no harm, no foul, no worries, whatever. Hit the light switch, X, and paint with lights on. The layer mask is just an eraser. Where you paint with white, you'll see. Where you paint with black, you won't see. You'd love to practice this, wouldn't you? Paint with white, it shows up. I want to see that edge again. Paint with black. I'm going to hit the light switch. X. Paint with black with a very big brush. And you don't see. And if my brush has a nice, big, feathered edge, which I love on layer masks, I can get away with some murder. Look what I'm creating now. It's kind of fun. I like this. I'm compositing two images. And when you combine two or more images for artistic effect, layer mask is your superstar. It just sounds complicated. It's not. It's an eraser. Paint with black on the mask for lights out. Paint with white for lights on. You can see. Hit D to reset your default colors. Hit X to turn on and off the light switch. Get a brush and start rocking. Okay, I'm looking at this image and I know that I have my signature down here in the bottom right, and I utilized the obvious choice of her body and her legs to point down to my watermark, my signature. And so I'm going to make sure that I paint lights out on that top photo, which makes the one below it lights on. I can just see it. I'm just making sure that my watermark, my signature, is showing up. Lights on, lights off. How cool is this? I combined two images. Now, time out. In my Photoshop course, I say, and I've already created for those people who've taken my Photoshop course, a document called the 4 Ways handout. 4 ways. You want the 4 Ways handout. Send me an email and say, Rick, I want your 4 Ways handout. And I'm going to show you 4 ways that you can combine multiple images into a Photoshop file for compositing. There are 4 ways, 4 different ways to combine 2 photos or more in Photoshop. And you'll want my 4 Ways handout. Now, as I continue to do these bonus videos, you're going to see me utilize some of my favorite of the 4 ways, but ask for the 4 Ways handout via email. So I'll have your email and I'll reply to that for you so that you can get a hold of that. In the next bonus video, I'm going to tell you about another handout you might want called the Glitter and Glue handout, but we'll hold off on that for now. You can ask me for that at any time. Okay, pretty cool. Combining two images, layer mask, but I told you I like to add another ingredient. Compositing, that was one. Layer masking, that was two. But I find I can't help myself. I love using the blending mode. And it shows up in the layer panel under the word normal. Now, there's really nothing normal about the normal blending mode. It ought to say opaque. I'm opaque. You can't see through me when that ink is showing up. But you have all kinds of other flavors of blending modes. And if you've taken my Photoshop course, you already know that I have a really fast keyboard shortcut to cycle through all of those and see what I want to see. But I'm going to review it for you here too. 2 parts, really simple. Mac or PC, tap the letter V for victory. Tap the letter V. If you want to know why, you can go to the Photoshop course. But for now, 2 steps. Tap the letter V and then hold your Shift key and hit plus, 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 plus. Oh, there's my plus sign. I'm finding it there on the top of my keyboard. Shift, plus, 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 until you hear yourself make a sound. I just hit plus until I see something that makes me go Things that make you go That's it. Now, if you want to keep going. But look and remark on what made you go Now, right now, I went on screen blending mode. Cool. I composited 2 images. I ran the layer mask. And now I'm changing something called the blending mode, how one layer interacts with the layers below it. It made me go, I like it. There it is. But if I keep going Shift plus, I'll get multiple other options. They're different. They're different. I might care for one over another. I just went on this one. I don't always pick hard light, but right now it made me go I want to compare it now to screen, which I went for earlier. I liked screen. So instead of Shift plus plus plus, you can do Shift minus minus minus, and it will go in the reverse order, and I can compare. Now I'm hitting the keyboard shortcut, but I'm looking at the mode. You don't have to use a keyboard shortcut. You can pop right up on it and say, well, that was what screen did. But I think, what was it compared to hard light and screen and hard light? And you can actually go manually through all of those, of course. But what I'm trying to say is that when I use layer masks, to me, that's a bowl of salt. I like a little garlic. Blending mode. I like to composite 2 images. Chocolate. And when I add all these ingredients together, you start to get looks that you would really enjoy and that your viewers are actually considering buying. These are images that have impact. They're very simple. All of this takes 5 minutes or less in real time to do. Now, it's non-destructive. I can always go back up and say, well, I want to see it at normal mode. I don't think I want to erase anything. So you go back to your layer mask. You can either paint with black or X, light switch, and repaint with lights on anytime you want. You can also fill with black or fill with white, and we learned a shortcut for doing those 2 things in our previous videos. Command delete fills with the background color, which is currently set to black. Lights out. For PC users, that was Control backspace. Fills with the background color. Don't write in your notes that it fills with black. It fills with the current background color. In my case, it's set to black. How do I know? Because I hit the letter D. Default. I know black is my background color. So Command or Control, delete or backspace, or Option or Alt delete or backspace on the PC will fill with lights on. So I can quickly fill with lights out or fill with lights on. Command delete, Option delete. PC users, your turn. Control backspace, Alt backspace to start fresh again. That's a layer mask. Some other clever uses of a layer mask. By the way, one more thing I ought to show you before I take off here. On the layer mask, instead of using the paintbrush, I could use my gradient tool. The gradient tool always blends from your foreground color to your background color. So in a layer mask, what does that translate into? From what you can see, it blends into what you can't see. How fun is this? So with black and white, and I'm looking up at my gradient options, I'm doing a linear gradient from black to white currently. From I can't, oh, look down. Wherever I click first, it's going to be I can see white. Oh, well, I want to see this side of her face, but I'm going to click and drag and blend to I can't see. So you can use the gradient. I want to change my mind. Maybe from the lips to the blanket. Maybe from her jawbone to the blanket. Wherever you start is full C. And wherever you stop is full not C. Can I always add the brush? Sure I can. Let me grab my brush and say, I want to see less of her elbow. Light switch. Now I'm painting with lights out. I started with the gradient tool, but I can always swap and add or delete with any other tool. Okay, I'm telling you, every time I see that, my mind is blown. I think that is so cool. Let me show you a very easy, everyday use for a layer mask. I promise you, you're going to look at this next example and say, oh, I could have used that last Thanksgiving, last Christmas, last Hanukkah, last birthday party. Here it is. I'm selecting 2 photos. I'm going to let you see what they look like in Bridge. If I hit the spacebar, it just gives me a good look. Oh, I love this family, but oh, her eyes were closed. I'm going to hit the right arrow and let you see the other image. Oh, her eyes are open. Oh, but her eyes are closed. And his eyes are closed. Can't you family members just get it together? All right, so how many times has this happened to you, right? Every time I take a photo, someone's eyes are closed, and this is why I always take at least 3. Pop, pop, pop. Everybody look at me. Okay, here we go. Layer mask is going to be your solution here. 2 photos, Tools menu, Photoshop. This is one of the 4 ways to combine more than one image in Photoshop. It's on my 4 ways handout. Your favorite way may vary. It may be something different. You might copy and paste. All right, my 2 images are loading for me. You see, I'm holding my hands up to let you know I'm not doing anything special. This is so cool. Check it out. 2 layers in one Photoshop file. I just hit the letter F again and held my spacebar to move the image over. F for fill my screen, spacebar drag to scroll my image into my view. I'm going to turn on and off the top layer with the eyeball so you can just see it. All right, what I'm going to do is use a layer mask to open eyes. But for this trick, I need my 2 photos, and I wasn't using a tripod. I need my 2 photos to line up. And one's cocked compared to the other. They don't line up. I'm going to show you a magic trick for making multiple photos align. They'll align. But I have an issue with this alignment trick. I have an issue with it. It does not work if at least one of my layers is a smart object, which I love using. So now I'm frustrated because I'm going to select, holding the Shift key, both layers. And I'm going to show you where I go to find automatically align. Edit, auto align. But it's grayed out. You know why it's grayed out. I just told you, because one of my layers is currently a smart object, and I can see that because of that thumbnail. And so I'm going to Control key click on a Mac, or right mouse button click on a PC, or no keyboard shortcut, just go up to the flyout menu and say stop being smart. Now you won't read that anywhere in there. Stop being smart. Where is it? I don't see stop being smart. It's going to be called rasterize. I'm going to Control key click on the Mac. Right button click on the PC, rasterize. Is that the dumbest phrase ever for stop making it a smart object? You're taking a note, aren't you? Rasterize is stop making it a smart object. Good. No icon. Should you have one? I've got both layers selected. I go to my edit menu. I automatically align my layers. Look what happens. Oh, sheesh. More geek to work through. I have no idea what to do here. I know, so just click OK. There it is. Now, what you may not have readily recognized is that it took one image and it swapped it. Now, if I eyeball on and off the top layer, you're going to see that almost everything aligns. This software trick says anything that can be aligned, I will align. Body parts, shorelines, boats, whatever. But there it is. They now align. Oh, it's so much fun. Are you ready? On this image, her eyes are open, her eyes are open, hers are closed. Open, open. On the bottom layer, hers are open. Closed, closed, people. Okay. I know this item right here, below this photo, has her aligned, but her eyes are open. So on that top layer, I add a layer mask, and I use black paint to erase the closed eye's head. Just like that. And now you've got a perfect family photo. Every Thanksgiving, every birthday, every Christmas, every Hanukkah, every whatever you pick. Take more than one family photo. You do already. Align the photos that have faces that are what you want. Run a layer mask. Now I'm going to show you another. I'm sure I've got plenty. Sometimes you have no hope. All right, here you go. Here it is at the wedding. Oh, boys will be boys. But Grandma is so concerned about it that she did it too. Grandmas will be grandmas. But the next photo, Grandma's fine, but this kid is ready to barf. I don't know what's going on over there. No hope for kid number one. But kid number two, he had a good looking face over here. I could use that. Grandma didn't. What am I going to do? You know what I'm going to do. I'm going to shift click. I'm going to go to tools. Now we're going in real time. Photoshop. Load files into Photoshop layers in real time. One of them looks like it's coming in as a smart object. I'm going to control click and say don't. Shift click. Edit menu, auto align, okay. I say thank you, on and off. I'm just letting you see it. Grandma's not looking at me. I add a layer mask. I know she was looking at me on the other photo, so I just erase that head. Done. 23 seconds. And over and over. Layer masks. They're masks. And you already know you can command or control click on anything to make a selection out of anything. I just did that to the layer mask or to the photo itself. You'll see the whole photo is now. So, but what the other photo, I command or control click on it, and you can see how it had to move, how it had to shift one photo in order to align it with the other photo. I'm just command clicking just to see it with a regular selection. All right, that's it for layer masks, unless or until you send me a question or you send me some images and say, how would you do this? You'll see more layer masking coming up in the next couple of bonus videos because I can't help myself. It's one of my favorite ingredients. But until then, you practice.